yes, Luke.
That was a good try.
Buddy. Nobody will even know what we're laughing about. Welcome to Manga Monday with a failed attempt of Rose from Blackpink singing the theme song. So that did not work, but maybe we'll get Rihanna singing it by the end. But welcome to the show. Here we are, part of the Weird Science family of podcasts, Network, and we're going to continue on with the DC manga that have recently come out. We already had the Jokers and the Batmans.
Joker Mission 1, baby.
And the funny thing about this is that when we first saw it, we're like, oh my God, it's Superman Food Wars.
I mean,
it kind of is, except not. But we'll see. We'll see how it is. It's going to be, unless you call shooting heat vision kind of an orgasm, which they kind of play it with that. It's weird.
There's the shoot the heat vision, and there's one time he says something that he still has 4 big ones left, and I don't know about you, Jim, but I got pretty excited when I read that.
Yeah, oh my goodness gracious. But we're going to get right into this. I don't think this is going to take us that long, but we'll give it our full Luke Hollywood try. Luke, what are we talking about?
This week we have the Superman versus the Meshi. I don't know who the Meshi is, but maybe he's going to be meshing around with some food pretty soon.
I thought it was going to be messy. We end up having some footy going on.
This introduction is pretty messy. Oh, my God.
How about this? Since you didn't do this, meshi is a food that is steamed or boiled until no water is left by adding water to rice, wheat, or grains. From gramineous plants. It's also an alternate name for a meal. It means something that is eaten. So it is Superman versus food.
Superman?
It's kind of Superman versus cooked rice or a meal is what it ends up. I figured it was something like that. I didn't want to end up sounding like a dummy. So I probably sounded like a dummy. Keep going with your info.
Yes, indeed. It is written by Satoshi Miyagawa with art by Kai Kitagawa, first published in 2021. In Evening Magazine, Kodansha Evening Magazine, which is better than Morning Magazine, Jim, because, you know, who gets up
I'm more of a morning guy than you.
No way.
You're like an hour mid-afternoon guy, is all you got. You have a very small window of opportunity for a Luke Hollywood.
My Meshi be in the evening, guys.
I just think you're a complete mesh. But that's just me, and that's when you're wearing your PlayStation sweater. Any other info?
Well, we can read it on the DC Infinite Online app thingy-mabob that you can read it on and have a good time. And that's what we're doing right now.
So that's the deal. You end up, there's not a color page to be, there's a cover, though.
Color page.
It's okay. I mean, the art in this isn't spectacular.
No. I think the art was better in the last one,
Yeah, that was more legit. This is more of just something where I think that what you're going to get is the flavor of something you'd never get. You know, even the idea of, hey, the Joker's raising that, that's not even that as outlandish as
we are never going to get a story of Superman flying around to go to a specific, Japanese restaurant on his lunch break just to eat, and that's the whole story. That's
why I think that this is kind of cool. That's all this is that Superman is going to go and sample different Japanese restaurants.
Why not?
He ends up, I love the idea that you get the big stakes are that he only has an hour lunch and he's got to get back. So it does have to do with a lot of the cooking time, because he says, I can just zip back and forth, but he ends up making a crucial mistake at one point. So
for a Superman, he makes a not so super reading mistake in the menu.
If you're going through this and you think to yourself, well, Superman, he's been around. He goes, he does not speak or write Japanese. That's going to be a major problem for him in this, and he also doesn't really know the culture as much. I actually thought that they were going to get mad at him, because by the end, he actually does leave money that they may have thought as a tip, and you're not allowed to tip in Japan. But he ends up talking about that, he saves people, all this stuff. He is Superman. And you get that, intro. This is a job for Superman. I can fly anywhere I want. I could save anybody. I do this. I'm Superman. But at the moment, Superman is hungry, is what you get to.
He can't do it on an empty stomach. Oh, my goodness.
And so you start off where he is super hooked on the Japanese food, and he's in line. I like to see Superman standing in line. I like that they have to have an arrow pointing to him. Like, I would think it's that lady in front of him as Superman. Well, and one guy looks like he's like, I don't know, he's up to no good. But you end up where he's standing outside a ramen restaurant in Japan. He gets there. He says, I want the double pork. And he says, and it does look delicious. It looks like it's going to fall right out of that plate. I don't know how they keep it there. But he is super hooked on the Japanese food, whether it be ramen, skewers, rice, whatever. But you then go back to Metropolis, and the problem here is that Superman, this is what I think is going to happen by the end. Superman's doing too good a job. He stopped all of the crime.
There's no news in Metropolis.
I believe that his obsession with Japanese food is going to cause there to be kind of that deal with more crime.
His lunch break keeps on getting longer and longer.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he keeps ordering things that need more time to cook, but Perry's mad. And I love that Perry is just dreaming and hoping there'll be a terrorist attack. He's like, can't you do something about terrorists or whatever? And he's like, sorry there, Chief. Superman's made peace in the world. Oh, my God. Peace. And he doesn't want it. Perry doesn't care. Perry says, don't give me that.
That doesn't print papers.
Exactly. And he says, if you're any kind of reporter, you'll bring me an engaging story involving Superman. I like that in this, Lois is in it for a little bit, but even at one point, it's like, is it shade? Like, look at Lois. She's doing that same interview 3 times now. Like, it seems kind of like shade with it. But Lois is going off to Gay Paris. She's going to go off to Paris. And I like where all of a sudden Clark's stomach grumbles. What was that, a lion? Like, it's so loud. Oh, sorry, the Chief. I want to go. He comes out and he's walking down. And he ends up saying, hey, Lois. Oh, hey, Clark. And then he says, perfect timing. Would you like to go out to lunch? But he really doesn't want her to go. He says it because then he goes, oh, man, as he's even going, I think the lousy timing is that Lois is walking down the hall and he doesn't want to take her to lunch. And she's like, oh, I can't go to lunch. I love this jet-setting ways of these jerks. Like, me and you don't have the life of, hey, Luke, you want to go to lunch? No, I'm going to Paris. Ooh la la. Right? So there's Lois. She's going to go off to Paris. She can't do it. Star reporter Lois Lane. She says, I'm leaving to do a story in Paris. I'll see you later. And then you end up where Clark's like, oh, thank God. Yeah, it's like, thank God.
Like, he grins. He's like, at least I don't need to buy her lunch as well.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, I swear to God, because you say exactly what I think. It's not that, I'd have to eat here because I can't let her know I'm Superman, or I'd have to fly. He just doesn't want to pay for her lunch. Like, I don't got a lot of money. I didn't win a Pulitzer.
Well, he's not writing a lot of reports in the Daily Planet, so he doesn't really have the paycheck money coming in.
I would love the idea that Perry is so pissed off because of the idea that Print's dead. He's like, these TikTokers, they're killing us with your deal. Because I think that what you get here, and what you would imagine what we're going to get is that suddenly Superman eating food will become the craze.
He's going to write a food travel blog, and it's going to be amazing.
Oh, it'd be the best. And so he ends up, this is the one day where I'm actually glad Lois shot me down. And he feels bad at some point.
Screw you, Lois, it's time to eat.
And then I love it. It's like, this is the one day where I'm actually glad Lois shut me down. Why don't I mind? Well, you'll see. And boom, he goes off to Japan. And it says he's discovered Japanese restaurant chains.
Wow.
It's like,
better
really?
Than marriage.
I mean, it's weird too, because you say this. I don't know where we lie on the deal. It really felt like this is the Lois and Clark that aren't married, that they're like at each other. This is like
pre-marriage, because she's off to Gay Paris.
Yeah, because he's like, she doesn't say, oh, remember I told you about this going to Paris. She's just off. Whatever she's doing there, it stays in Paris. But I like the idea. And he says, I can't afford to bring her to the Torikasuku. Like, is it that bad at the Daily Planet? He can't even buy her lunch.
He keeps on talking later on. He's like, you get all this food for so cheap But he still does. He only has enough for him. Oh,
he buys the cheapest food, and he's so happy that he didn't have
Superman
to
on a giant budget.
It just made me so fun. I actually wish, seriously, and I believe when we get to it, I think I know how much the food costs. This guy is poor. I mean, somebody needs to save Superman's bank account. Wait till you hear what this is when we get to it, because it's
World
nonsense.
peace comes at a cost. Superman's wallet.
I mean, we always make the joke of like, come on, just get some coal and press it in your hand and make a diamond. Oh, he's like, oh my God. Also, he's there. It's all you can eat. He's so cheap. He ends up going to this restaurant. And he goes in, and he loves the idea that the sign has the colors of his emblem. I'm telling you, this is a very quick chapter. The art isn't the greatest. It's okay. You don't ever sit there and say, like, oh, my God, who's that or whatnot. But I'm telling you, I'm already having so much fun with the idea that Superman is cheap and poor. So he goes in. And he's like, all right, well, and he sits there. It only takes him 3 seconds to get from Japan to Metropolis, but he has a lunch break for an hour. So he does have to make sure he gets back, but he ends up having to really rush here. He's not even going to take the stairs. He flies up to the second floor.
Incognito.
There is the play where he goes in and just so if they didn't realize, he says, yes, 1 Superman for lunch. And they're like, oh, okay, we have another customer. Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, really. And Superman thinks that they think he's a cosplayer. They just, okay, that's normal
I hear
stuff.
he's pretty popular in Japan these days.
Yeah, whatever. So he ends up like, all right, I'm going to get this. And whatever reason, he's super grateful that there's cosplayers. So they say, what can I get you to drink? And he says out loud, I'll start with a beer, is what I'd like to say, but I'll have a soda. I'm like, really? Like,
great. Never ever drink and fly.
And I'm telling you, yeah. And he says that, and the guy's already weirded out. Look at that. The waiter's like, well, okay, whatever, jerk. And he goes like, I heard that before. And then he says, I'll have this cabbage plate with it. So he's going to get a soda cola with a cabbage plate. Has to be one of the worst orders that you could ever have to start things off. I mean, that is a really, really bad order.
That's a poor man's lunch.
It is. So then he starts going, and I thought that the play here was going to be that, okay, we laughed that he's cheap, but I thought it was going to be because when he goes out to eat, because he's Superman, it'd be like the Flash. And really, this might have even worked well as a Flash story as well. But the idea that he has to get a million things, tons of food. But he ends up and he wants the house specialties, which is thigh and breast, both with sauce he wants. And he says, I can't wait. And then he thinks of that time back in the day, the first time that he had a chicken skewer. Whoa. That it was the greatest. It almost looks like he's fighting Magog, by the way. But he ends up saying, I was there. And there was a villain from another world terrorizing a parking lot. I like that at the point it looks like this, multiversal villain has come to kind of push over a couple cars and grab some carts and throw them. He's there holding a cart, and he says, stay out of my way. To Superman whacks him one. And the big love of Japanese food starts when this bad guy picks up a food cart, a food truck, and throws it at Superman. Now, is there any way this guy lives or any of that food remains? Because the thing is like flipping around.
Yeah, you gotta imagine like all the boiling hot, like water in the
Can you imagine the guy screaming inside? Oh no, the stir fry! He's there, he's stir frying.
It's in my eyes.
Oh my God. Superman saves the truck, defeats the guy, puts the truck down. And I love that this guy, because, I don't know. Is this guy cheap as well? He has to run a business.
Do you think this is Shade? When he's on like, he doesn't even bother cooking up a new batch. Here's this old leftovers. You can eat them, I guess. They're going in the bin otherwise.
Superman saves him. And you're thinking that he's going to say, oh my God. It's perfect setup.
We're closed.
For him to say, oh my God, Superman, you saved me. Anything you want, I will make up. And then you would even get the deal where Superman would say then, well, I don't really know what this food is. And the guy could give him a little tip. That would be his start. But he ends up saying, hey, you want this? These are leftovers. I was just about to throw them away. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And he eats it, and he loved it. And also, at that point, to show that he has super smell sense, he gets a pig nose. So there you go. He gets a super pig nose, and he's like, ooh, Japanese grilled chicken. I didn't know they made it this way. Ooh, what is this? Oh, it's a sauce. Oh, my God.
Chicken.
And this is where he gets full out and almost kills the guy.
The food wars orgasm.
Food wars are deadlier than we thought. And he actually has to say sorry to the guy who it looks like he just set his truck on fire that he just saved. But he ends up having that. And I like, did I singe you? And he's, all that. So he's thinking of that as he gets his bowl of cabbage and his soda. He gets there. This guy says, incoming. Here's your cabbage plate. Here's your soda cola. The house specialty breast meat and thigh skewers, all covered in sauce. Oh, my God. Superman's all excited. He's sweating.
Yummy.
He didn't think it was going to be this much food. He's actually, a little off on that. So he probably could have afforded to bring Lois. Maybe. He bought so much. Or we don't know. Lois might eat like a hog. I don't know. Maybe she eats tons.
Risky.
But he ends up now. The weird play here is that you don't really, and I went back to look at the menu because he ended up ordering house specialty. The guy said breast and thighs, boom, Superman thinks they duped him. He actually says, is this false advertising? Because this doesn't, what does he think he was going to get? He actually ordered something that was pretty vague. He just said house specialty. Yeah. Whatever the best thing you give us. And when you do that, seriously. Everybody here, I'm going to give you a little bit of advice. Whoa. This happens when you go to like a donut shop. Don't let them fill your donuts. Don't say, I'll have a dozen, you pick. Because you're going to get the crap. They're going to give you the stuff that doesn't sell. And I swear to God, when you say, I'll just have the house specialty, that's the stuff that's been laying around because they need to get rid of it. Just like that food truck guy. Oh, that was the house specialty that night.
Give it to Superman. He's poor. He'll eat anything.
He'll eat anything. He's like Mikey. So you end up where you get a weird dated reference here where he picks up the skewer and he goes, it looks like Schwarzenegger's upper arm. Ha ha.
I like you had to put the laugh in brackets, He's subtle like that.
That's way outdated. Old people's references Old now. People's but you get that.
Chicken skewers.
So he's there. There are 4 of these skewers before my eyes. And he says, I don't know why I'm complaining, but he starts eating it. He has the cabbage is screwing him up throughout this whole deal. He doesn't know when to eat. The cabbage was
a bad idea. He shouldn't have went with the cabbage.
And the weird part of it is, as he's doing this, nobody's watching him, but he's so concerned that he's going to look like a jerk. He doesn't want to look like a Kansas farm boy eating. So he's like, calm down, Clark. You don't want to do this. Basically, it seemed like he ordered the cabbage to kind of think he's cool.
Keep up with
there was no real reason for it. So he gets the cabbage. He eats a little of the cabbage. He's like, okay, well, there you go. He says the sour sauce brings out the sweetness of the cabbage. Then it cracks him up. Like we realize too that Superman's a boring guy.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh man, can you believe what I just said? Like, I never would have thought I would have said that cabbage was sweet. Ha ha.
Oh, jeez.
This is the stuff where people end up like, man, I wonder what Superman does when he's not fighting, villains, saving, trains. He's boring. He's there like, better watch out how I eat this cabbage. People might be watching. And then he's like, I ordered it because I thought maybe just asking for yakitori alone would be uncool. but then he goes, I can eat cabbage anytime. Pushes the cabbage aside. Why am I eating cabbage?
He's gone 4 of these big bad boys win for him.
You go to a steak buffet and they're like, hey, what are you getting? Oh, I'm going to get rice.
Right.
No, you don't do that. So he's like, okay, time to be bold. It's what you ordered, Superman. And he says, I've got 4 of these bad boys waiting for me. You thought that was sexy. What you thought. Oh, my goodness.
How long is this lunch break?
He jumps in. Now, this is one of the things, too, that I have problems with when, say, I go to the Chinese buffet that we have in town. I'll say, okay, well, look, it has, chicken on a skewer. I'm like, that don't look like any chicken I saw. These things don't look like pieces of chicken.
I don't know what they look like. Just lumps of meat.
at one point I'm like, it kind of looks like the fake lobster or the fake crab meat that they like. I'm like, that doesn't.
He's got some Walking Dead zombie teeth going on there as well. I don't know what's happening.
Seriously, it's also drooling.
Probably.
So he ends up, digging in. He's like, all right, I got these going, and he's getting it all over himself, and he's really food warring it up.
Oh yeah,
he does say green onion and chicken. Chew. He's got pig nose.
Dude,
oh my
chew.
God. And he says, now this is what I had a super taste for. And he's all excited. But then he realizes, I'm about to orgasm again. I love the idea too. It's the idea
Why doesn't he just close his eyes? Why does he have to put a napkin?
There's Superman with his heat vision. And what he does is cover his eyes with a wet cloth. Like he's not just going to burn through it.
There we go.
It's crazy. He's like, oh my God. I better do this. So now he's eating stuff without looking. He's just grabbing stuff, and he's like,
Just going for that tea.
This is my favorite line of the whole thing. I'm telling you, this is actually a very wholesome kind of Superman line where he says, I can't get enough of this. My thinking has gone from, I still have 3 left to I only have 3 left. I'm like, it just made me laugh. Again, I'm like, you are boring, Superman. And seriously, when I'm sitting there, he's there with thinking of Lois. And I love where he is just chomping. He's just going to town, and he's talking to himself, and he's like, man, this sauce, it's a really good choice. I don't know if this one is even thigh meat or breast meat because the skewered chicken is smothered in the sauce.
So
it's great.
Good.
And then he thinks in his mind, because he has to think of what a jerk Lois
of the mind would throw shade at this moment.
This is why, really, you don't bring Lois. She could probably pay for her own lunch, but she's a real jerk. She's like, would you stop going on about the sauce? And I love where you have this. And he's like, oh, Clark, would you stop going on about the sauce? You're such like a little kid.
That seems like something she would say.
I love he's like, I can imagine Lois saying that if she were here. What happened if all of a sudden the heat vision goes because he's pissed? Yeah, so he ends up loving this. And then for a second, he's like, yeah, she's going to Paris. Haven't had time to talk to her lately, but let's move on.
Been too busy eating.
Yeah, he says it's a waste of time feeling sorry for myself. So while the yakitori is still in my mouth, I'll wash it down with cola. I've never seen anybody react this way of drinking a cola after eating something that that's like what does he have? The stuff still in his mouth? Like, just imagine he's like chewing up a chicken skewer and it's all in his mouth and then he's guzzling soda. The only time I've ever done that is when I wanted to stay home from school. So I was going to pretend I threw up and grabbed a bunch of food in my mouth and then ran up and spit it out in the toilet. He's there and he's like, oh my God, super exquisite. The yakitori goes perfectly with the fizziness of the cola and the complimentary lemon.
Complimentary lemon.
Usually you get that here with diet soda, so I don't know. Maybe that is what he has. But yeah, he's like, all right, I'm into it. Oh my God, this is great. Don't you think that he should be done? Like, that should be...
You know, once he guzzles down that cola, he should call it a day. This is where he makes a grave mistake, when he goes back to the menu.
Right? 4 skewers he had. And then he had the cabbage. He got the cola. That's lunch. Just go home. But he's like, nope.
Big Kansas farm boy needs more than that.
Well, it is Superman. He's like, something else caught my eye. This. And you end up, it's a rice dish. It's the chicken kettle rice. Now, this is the other thing. Where, and it's weird play here because what the waiter had said is you can go on your tablet, you can use a tablet here, or you can use the menu. It's weird because it looks like he's using the menu until he's using the tablet.
And then orders on the tablet. It's pretty weird.
And then he gets upset because he's saying that the tablet fooled him because he says, and this is where the price, where you have to go with the idea of how cheap it is. He says, I can't believe this costs 280 yen, the same as the yakitori. So he got a couple of those. 280 yen is like $1.99. This guy is poor. Like, this isn't like a $10 meal.
Oh, no.
It's a $2 meal. And he's like, whew, thank God I didn't bring Lois. I ain't going to pay her $2 meal. So he ends up ordering it. And then he's like, sitting back contemplating life, and he's thinking about the Magna. This is a huge lunch. It's so much so he's like, all right. And he says, maybe this won't be so good. It's 280 yen. I mean, how good could it be? Huh? Then he's like, yeah. And now he's worried. And he puts this in the idea of, I'm usually worried about the world being invaded by aliens or, monsters or Lex Luthor. So why am I so worried about this chicken kettle rice? It's like, something's wrong. I don't know what happened. That yakitori, that was out quick. But this rice, it's taking a while. Maybe there's trouble. He gets bored. He starts picking at that stupid cabbage again. Decides that he's going to dip the cabbage into what was the remaining sauce of the yakitori.
Food Wars goes wrong.
And I love, he's going to relive the memory. He's like, relive the memory while I'm waiting. Then he dips it, and then we get this aside where he's like, yeah, that didn't really work.
Didn't work. Oh, no.
He's like, huh, maybe that's better without the sauce. Feels like the yakitori sauce and the cabbage sesame oil cancel each other out.
Good.
Okay, Superman. But then he's like, he is freaking out. Where is this kettle chicken rice? Where's the chicken kettle rice? Oh my God, my lunch hour is almost. Why did you order this when you already ate? And then he says, according to the tablet, they got the order. Why is it taking so long? Oh, great row. I have no faith in this machine. Let me look at the menu. The menu says that it takes 30 minutes.
He uses that super zoom-in vision to see the fine print.
To see the menu 2 inches from his face. So he ordered, like we said, he had the menu. Okay, then he went to the tablet, but he didn't look at the fine print. But he blames he actually throws shade at the technology of the deal. And when he gets upset, he ends up heat visioning the menu. He destroyed the menu. Right as the guy comes out to bring the chicken kettle rice. But, Luke, it's not over. Superman's day is still not going to go well because when the waiter brings the chicken kettle rice, for some reason, I don't know why you would cook something for 30 minutes and then bring it out to only tell the person, by the way, you got to wait 5 more minutes. You have to end up 5 more minutes. He ain't got no 5 minutes. He has to let the steam keep cooking it. So what he ends up doing is heat visioning the chicken kettle rice.
Heat vision is the answer to everything in this Superman.
Yeah, he's upset at the menu, heat vision. He ends up loving the chicken skewers, heat vision. He needs to cook. There's no way that this doesn't burn the crap.
Doesn't this absolutely destroy the dish?
It says that he can control the intensity of the heat vision, but to me, the heat vision is cooking the rice in a different way than it should be cooking. This is supposed to be steamed rice, and he is pretty much ultra cooking it like it's on, a gas stove. That's not going to work.
Heat vision rice.
And I would have loved the idea that he starts eating it and he thinks that it's terrible, but he doesn't realize that he ruined it.
Oh, no.
He goes
worst
to town.
lunch ever.
The worst of this is, though, and also he's just eating it with the rice scoop. He's shoving. The worst part of it is he doesn't really say anything about.
After all that, he doesn't even say if it tastes good or not. We got so much about the cabbage, but nothing about the chicken kettle rice.
I thought that he was going to say, he actually just says, now I just stir it up with a rice scoop like this and shove it down my mouth. So then he pays for all of his meal and gives extra for the menu damage. And that's where I said, if they would have thought that he was giving a tip, they would have been very offended. And then he goes off. And again, I do like this because you got to get it, because at first I was confused. I was like, what? But it is nighttime in Japan at this point because opposite side of the planet. So when he goes off, it is night. You see the moon, but he's heading back to Metropolis. Now, with all that, he's done nothing except eat a bunch of food, not read a menu. So what is he going to bring? What he actually does bring to Perry is, hey, I think now I'm going to go get a story.
I'm ready to do my job.
And so I think because Perry's yelling, where's Clark Kent? Where's that blockhead? He comes in. Hey, Mr. White, here I am. I got some food. I'm ready after a great lunch. I feel like a new Superman. And off he goes to get the story.
You're fired.
I think that the funny play might end up being is usually like a Spider-Man. you'll get the even with Clark. A lot of times Clark is just writing stories about Superman, and that's what Perry wants. So that seems like so I think instead of it like, ooh, my secret identity goes to do the story and all this, he will just turn going to get these lunches as the story, which is kind of funny as Clark Kent food reporter. But what's going to happen is the idea, like, how do you explain that you're eating lunch in Japan every day when you're in Metropolis? And I want to see how they play this up, and if they're like, you're just making imaginary food stuff, or does he play up anything? I don't know. But by the end, I don't know. I laughed at Superman. It made me laugh. Superman being cheap, doesn't know anything about reading a menu. He gets things wrong. He's worried about people looking at him and making fun of him. Is pretty fun. So I do like that. Now, also, as it goes on, I hope that Lois eventually does go at some point with him and ruins it.
At some point.
I hope Lois ruins everything. Or by that point, because I'll give you a little heads up, a little spoiler.
Oh.
The next chapter, and there's only 2 that have been released on the app so far. The next chapter really does involve Superman not being able to read kanji, so he ends up messing up his order, and he doesn't know what to do. So I want him eventually, as he learns more and more, then Lois comes and he makes fun of her.
Oh,
she
my
doesn't know,
goodness.
because that's what I would do.
You've been going to
I wouldn't even think back at, like, man, she's just like me. I'm telling you. And also I want Jimmy to go. Jimmy Olsen shows up. They always go eat together and things like that. So, and then by the end, it should end with a whole multiversal invasion, dark crisis. Superman don't care. He's eating. He's like, yeah, somebody else can help. But it also,
Darkseid's here, so is lunchtime.
How about this? First off, I want Batman to go to lunch with him, too. I want to see Bruce Wayne, fancy Bruce Wayne, but also...
Volume 2 of the manga does have Batman on the cover.
Well,
so,
just go straight up. Go with, I don't want to say a Tom King-esque deal.
Justice League.
Maybe the whole universe could come to peace when Darkseid shows up and Superman takes him out for some yakitori. Now that would be fun.
The real heroes in Crisis was because they didn't have that chicken kettle rice.
Can you imagine? Darkseid and Superman are eating the chicken kettle rice, and then Superman plays the old, hey, I got my wallet. War's on again. But yeah, there's some fun stuff. I think it's fun. I like the concept of the Joker Batman baby a little better. Mm-hmm. This was more of a full first chapter, though.
I definitely think this was more like, that was just more of a teaser of the concept of anything. This feels like a genuine story, even if it's a little light on the story. We'll never get this.
I mean, we'll never get this in any sort of DC Comics normally.
No.
So that's what's fun with it. And I'm telling you, just reading it, I didn't laugh as much as when we were talking, just how ridiculous it was. But what would you give it?
I liked it a lot. Like, I think it's worth, both of these stories are worth it just for, like, checking out the concept and seeing how they handle, like, this is, like you said, this is more of a novelty. Like, we're never going to get this in an American comic book, but, it's a good story. It works. We had a lot of fun reading it. And, them chicken skewers do look pretty tasty, even if they look like, somebody's upper arm. I don't know. But, it was a lot of fun. I don't know, I thought there was a bit more potential with the Joker story. With this, I can't see this lasting, a million chapters. They're gonna run out of lunch times eventually. But,
One Piece isn't in danger of this overtaking it.
I don't think so. But for what it is, I think it's a bit of harmless fun. I do hope we do get a little bit more sexy times in the Food Wars if we want to be genuine Superman Food Wars, Gotta get that going. But I liked it a lot. I'm going to go with a solid 8 out of 10.
Yep, I'm going to go 8 out of 10 as well. And suggest if you have the app, there's no reason not to check it out. And if you are listening and, you have problems right to left, whatnot, they actually did adjust the player. We talked about this with the Batman manga. They adjust the player. So if you do read it in the DC Infinite app, you go right to left. You kind of get used to it. And this may be a jumping on point for a lot of people to then go off to say the Shonen Jump app, best deal in comics, and check out even more stuff, because it does give you that vibe of, man, this is different. Like, it's kind of wacky. We'd never get this here. And that's why
feels fresh.
like manga so much. So with all of that, thanks everybody. I hope everybody enjoyed, and I hope that you end up reading it and let us know what you thought. But that's it. We will be back again next week with I don't know what. There's one other of these mangas, but the other one is this Justice Buster. It's not really any real different thing.
It's not funny.
Yeah, we like the funny, so we'll see. But we'll see by then. Maybe we'll do the old Fake Red, the Spider-Man manga. We'll just keep doing that, but we'll see when we get to it. But thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.